Okay, we're live on air.
Hi, Rose.
Hey, Ryan.
See what I did there? I like reversed it.
Because I'm sick, I can't. I'm sorry I sound like this, but I will forge ahead for Riverdale.
Um, so I just have to start off before we even talk about this one, because we took last week off. We were a little ahead of ourselves. We had a couple episodes to post, right?
Yeah, we do.
So at the time of this, the next one, which airs March 7th, has not aired yet. And I saw some sort of extended promo for it where Cheryl and who's the girl I like? The leslie girl who Jughead hooked up with.
Oh, Tony.
Tony. So Cheryl and Tony like have an interaction in the next one, which looks very flirtatious.
What did they do? Enact it for me.
It's like like Cheryl says something and like storms past her. And I'm feeling like the passion. Like somebody already was like, they're gonna go in that direction. And I really hope that they do. Also, it's like the four main people all go away on like to a cabin or something. And there's like Veronica mounting a half-naked Jughead like to make out with him. So that's also something we can like really look forward to in the next one. Can I just say though, Jughead looks good. He does. Because sometimes I'm rough on him, and I would just say, like, I'm kind of into it. So they're all gonna be in swimsuits. I'm just telling you, like, just get excited for that for no reason. Because again, what time of year is this show taking place right now? Because it was just Rose, it was literally just Christmas.
But you know what? Given the weather in real life, this week went from 35 degrees to 75 degrees to 35 degrees in one, 72-hour period. Maybe Riverdale's just like reflecting our new global climate change reality.
Hey, listen, that is probably very fair. So it's really a social commentary.
It's
right?
the news. I don't watch the weather. I just watch Riverdale. Okay, are you ready to talk about
Yes.
episode chapter 26?
They also the thing I'm most excited about, I'm sorry to cut you off too, is that they show Josie and her mom. Apparently the subplot of the next one is Josie versus her mom. And her mom is like, "You've never been cruel before." And Josie just gives her a bitch face. And I'm like, I don't even care what the story is. I care that Josie gets a story. That's really what I'm excited about at this point. So
Yes.
Okay, the Telltale Heart. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
That's okay. I'm excited for Josie to do something as well. So the Telltale Heart. Did you like this episode?
Yes, I have two enthusiastic thumbs up for this one.
Okay, good.
How about you?
I feel like things are moving along, moving ahead. And I like that I don't know, I like Betty and Jughead. I always like Betty and Jughead.
They are especially cute in this one.
They have a lot of drama. Betty, if we recall, walked into her living room to find her mother literally up to her elbows in blood. I guess, yeah, her living room. It's between her den and her living room. But her living room, her mother is just swimming in blood. I'm sorry, it's pretty funny.
I just like, she has these yellow, like, industrial kitchen gloves that go almost to her elbow. They're insane. And then I do think it's pretty accurate because it looks like they clobbered the dude in the head, who I think that poor gentleman got absolutely no lines in this show. And when's like, I think it's accurate because they clearly clobbered him in the head. We didn't see it. And there is so much blood. And when you do hit somebody in the head, there's like a ridiculous amount of blood. But they also, like, I always forget the woman's name the character name of Betty's mom. She has a silly name.
Alice.
Alice, thank you. It's like so simple. I don't know why I always forget it. So Alice, but it's like Alice is wearing these gloves, and the gloves are like somehow you can soak rubber in whatever the fake blood is. And she still has it on her clothes. And then when Betty's like helping her, she also has it like smeared on her face. Like it's really foul. It just is everywhere. Head blood gets everywhere, Rose.
Listen, and people do bleed a lot from the head. That's just the truth. Again, Riverdale is the news. So
yeah, it's telling us something.
Archie is also having a dramatic situation while Betty and her mother are cleaning up blood or bathing in blood or whatever they're doing on their den floor. Archie is in the garage next door with the FBI agent guy. What's that guy's name again?
Is it Davis? Agent Davis?
Whatever.
I wish I could forget. I remember. It's something D.
Agent wants Archie's D, having a little confrontation because he wants Archie to spy on the lodges and Archie's not into it and all that stuff. So let's not forget that's going on. Hal Cooper walks into this scene with the dead body. But where's the dead body? Gone. These women are so good at cleaning. It's like they should start a podcast about it. They cleaned up a dead body, and how much time do you think that was?
Like 30 minutes or less. Like the way that you used to be able to deliver a pizza is how the Cooper women clean up a body. That's how I feel.
I really admire that. Betty looks like shit. Like they do like one close up on Lily Reinhardt's eyes, and she looks really fucking torn up, which I assume you would be if you clean up a dead body. This person who's dead on their floor, would you say they were murdered? Did you say it was more of a manslaughter, self-defense? What is the legal situation that they're in?
I believe they leave it very open because it's supposed to be kind of up in the air. It still is kind of up in the air whether Betty's brother is evil, right? Like whatever happened, it seems like Alice is down with it. But I'm guessing he killed him and not Alice. But we don't know that. We don't know what happened, which is weird.
Yeah.
And Betty never really asks. Betty just goes into immediate damage control mode with Alice and like starts cleaning the body up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They don't get into the whys or wherefores. They just handle their business as ladies do. Now here's one thing that I don't get. The Cooper women are so smart. Alice is a reporter. Betty is a reporter and a detective. They're always detecting. They're always looking for clues. They dump this body in their own fucking rug from their house.
Yeah.
That has all their own DNA on it, their skin cells, their hair, like their fucking, dog's fur. Why would you dump a body in something that could be traced back to your own house?
Okay, it was established that they bleach. I guess they like super bleach everything. So is that after they dump the body though? I know that they're like removing DNA and like
they're removing his DNA from their house, which I get, but they wrapped him up in something that's from their house. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's craziness. That was bad. They should have put him in a tarp or something. But if you don't buy a tarp, then you're like on camera at the Walmart. So
Alice didn't have a murder tarp. This is Betty's first murder, so
you don't listen to My Favorite Murder. You don't think Betty Cooper listens to My Favorite Murder? She's a murderer, please.
I mean, I know that she has a lot of anxiety, which they like to talk about on My Favorite Murder. So, like, this is just a shameless plug for My Favorite Murder. I feel like we should just have a commercial where we tell people to listen to that other podcast. I mean, they're pretty entertaining. At least we go right into Riverdale, though. We don't talk for like an hour about other shit.
I like that part, though.
Everybody loves that part. Okay, it is super creepy. So Betty goes to bed. She looks fantastic with her wet hair, except it probably wasn't fun to go to sleep with hair that wet. And she wakes up, she looks super cute, and the name of the cereal that she pours herself is Fruity Munch, by
Oh
the
my
way.
goodness.
It's very bizarre. And the creepy part is that Alice and what's his name? Chick?
Chick.
So Alice and Chick are just like straight up pretending like everything's normal. Like, oh, hi, want some breakfast? Want some chocolate chip pancakes? And Betty's like, what the fuck? Fruity Munch for the win. I'm not dealing with this shit.
Yeah. She's like, dry cereal is what I'm having today. And I love that they do a close up on the cereal and it cuts from the cereal to her mother's hand in the blood. Like she really can't stop thinking about it. And this is just Betty's life now. She just
The,
lives in the
the
house where she came home and a dead body was on the floor.
the best part is when she goes to the door in slow motion, right? It's not slow motion, she's just moving to the door very closely. It eventually pans over to Allison Chick, and like we really should post a picture of like that reaction, because the best part is Chick's face. He's like at the door. He's like he's making a cartoon
Yeah, his
face.
eyes are like bugging out of his head. It's because his eyes are so light, I think. It looks so crazy, but it's true. Turns out it's just Jughead at the door. And Alice is like, oh, please, it's just Jughead. Like, they're all very, like, relieved, but it's also, they're also very dismissive, which is funny. Um, what if you went home and you found somebody in your house cleaning up a body? What would you do?
Well, it's like I would say Betty goes in, no, like, and it's her mom cleaning up a body. So to me, it's like I think the real question is, what if you went home and your mother was straight up just like wiping up head blood from a murdered dude? And so if that happened to me, I would have been like, oh my God, I'm not dealing with this. And I would literally just walk out the other direction. I don't, but the difference is I don't live in Betty's house, so I'm approaching this from a very
Yeah,
different
you could go
perspective.
back home. Yeah.
But like, how about you, Rose? Like if you came home and Liz
Like
was
when I was a teenager and my mother was like cleaning up a dead body, would I guess I'd help her. I guess I would help her.
I
I would
think it
want
might
more answers than Betty
yeah.
asked for. I would be like, what's going on? What's the situation?
But while you're doing that, blood is seeping to the hardwood floor. I would just say if I was a teenager, my hope is that I would have the same reaction that I have now, which is just to simply go, I'm not dealing with this, and to walk out.
Listen, it
So
takes a long time to get to that level of acceptance. Oh, hold on a second. This is not muted. Okay. It takes a long time to get to that level of acceptance and independence. I don't know if you're how old is Betty supposed to be?
16, I think.
Ooh. She's gonna
Right?
write the college essay.
I'm sorry, but no 16-year-old has abs like Archie.
And no
Because
16
like KJ Appa's like 20 though, right? It's
he's
crazy.
young. No 16-year-old is that good at cleaning up the floor. I'll tell you that. Nobody's trying to clean up extra.
I'm just watching Jughead and Betty go to school in the morning, and I forgot how much I like them. I do love that like Betty's umbrella is so small that Jughead doesn't get any, and then when it cuts to Archie and Veronica, like Veronica's umbrella is so big. Like it's just ridiculously large. Also, we completely skipped over the fact that Veronica decided she was going to make a dilettante, right? With
A detente,
her
yes.
a detente, thank you, with her parents and Jughead's dad because they want to iron out the problems with the biker gang, I guess with the severed head thing. And yeah, because it got sent to their house. It's Agent Adams. I'm sorry, there you go. It was on on Archie's phone. I love that Archie puts A. Adams into his phone as a contact. That's
What's he gonna put? Secret
I would put
boyfriend?
FBI if I was Archie, like or FBI dildo or something like that would have been funny. I guess that's what Reggie would do, right? So
FBI dildo. Um, We neglected to mention something else as well. That Jughead said to Betty last night, "I love you," and Betty didn't say it back because she had to run out and clean up a dead body.
Yeah.
She does love him.
God, Betty's so good in this one. She just looks so just like any excuse that Lily gets to look destroyed is amazing. But Cheryl's everything but Cheryl. Her shoes, her top, her weird spider brooch, because it wouldn't be Cheryl without a weird spider brooch, right?
It's her signature piece of jewelry. She said that multiple times. Okay, so Cheryl just goes into the school bathroom and she sees Betty in there looking, like you said, like wrecked. Like honestly, Lily Reinhardt looks terrific when she looks like shit. And
She just puked in the toilet because
dead body.
she heard there was like a murder story that Kevin comes in with that his dad was going to tell, and she like immediately murderino anxiety attack level right there. And then they're like, oh, it's the what was his name? Poutine, Papa Poutine. I hate calling him that. So that's the murder that Kevin was talking about. Because, by the way, in the last 12 hours, 2 people have been murdered. P.S.
I'm sure more people than that have been murdered, but those are the 2 that have anything to do with our characters. So there's that's the issue here, that from the last episode, there's this big like mafioso situation going on. And we can't forget about that.
Yeah. Also, this leads to another confrontation.
Yes.
Such ridiculous confrontation between Jughead and Mayor McCoy. Once again, they need to not let him into the office. But there's so much close up of face.
Yeah.
So much. We're right in there with them, Rose. How did you
what's
feel?
really crazy? Like, here's what's really crazy. If somebody said to anybody, like, let's say 10 years ago, 10 years ago, people knew who Robin Givens was. And people knew who Cole Sprouse was. They had both been on television. They had television careers, long-standing careers. But if somebody said there's going to be a showdown where Cole Sprouse is in Robin Givens' face about like these, land grabs from Archie Comics, people would have been like, what the fuck are you talking about? That makes no sense. But it's really good. And I'm glad we've lived to see it. So
we barely, because of global warming, but the show is addressing that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I was thinking that today. Like, some days you're like, the world is fucked, but you never know what's coming next. So you still have to just enjoy it as it comes to you. That's all I'm saying. And some days it's going to bring you something you never expected, like the Cole Sprouse, Robin Givens, super dramatic across the desk showdown. Archie is also having an important meeting today with Veronica's father.
Abigail Adams.
No,
this is so before he meets Hiram, he's in the park with Agent Adams, and this is, we don't have to say spoiler alert. You should have seen this episode before you listen to us, guys. So this is when, based on the fact that Archie gets like a wad of like thousands of dollars, essentially. It's like a stack of hundos in an envelope, and based on Adams's hat, I was like, he's not an FBI agent. But it was mainly everything he was saying was not something an FBI agent could promise Archie or information that they would want. So, I like that I smelled that this was an improbable plot from the beginning, but Archie doesn't suspect anything. And I didn't know that this issue was going to be resolved in this episode. And I'm glad that it was. I'm glad that the story about Archie's sort of informantness thing is over, at least at this stage.
right.
But now Hiram. Now you can get to the Hiram
Well,
comment.
there's nothing there. I mean, Archie just for once like plays like on his vulnerabilities and is like trying to get him to say he didn't kill that guy because Veronica would want to hear that, basically. Um, but I really don't care that much about that weird gangland stuff in this episode. The Betty walked into a murder scene is way more interesting.
That is, I would say that's the main gist of this one, the main plot. Betty really takes center stage in a way that the other ones don't. I do think that the conversation with Hiram and Archie does kind of yield something a little bit. So we kind of got the sense that Archie was on Hiram's side in the last one. That's really where we kind of left it. And I would say he doesn't reveal the informant thing, I think, during this conversation.
Yeah.
But he is basically stating he wants to get to the information that the FBI agent is asking him for. He wants confirmation whether or not Hiram killed the poutine guy. So, which I wish we knew his real name, because I'm not calling him Papa Poutine. It's so silly. So anyway, Poutine Man. Archie wants to know, but I get the very distinct sense that he would not share this with the FBI agent. I think that Archie wants to know if he's dealing with a killer at this point. And the
Right.
other thing is, he's so invested in Veronica at this point and in their relationship that I don't think he's going to do anything to hurt her parents. I think he realizes that's going to hurt her too. And
Yeah.
he can't do it.
Yeah. Of course, finding out that your father is a murderer would be upsetting and impact the rest of your life. Betty makes a terrible decision to go back to the dead body that she and her mother just dumped in the woods or in this pipe and hang out with it for a while. That's just sort of where she's spending her evening.
It's Alice's Cooper's special childhood place. Okay. She hung out in a lot of weird, like metal cylindrical things in the woods. Why she would hang out there is, I think, is a serious problem.
Well, she
Like, I
was
have a lot of
poor.
questions.
She was from the wrong side of the tracks, right? She was from Serpent Land, so hanging out in a cylindrical piece of metal was like Disneyland for her.
Somebody should just do, like, I would say, like a Tumblr or some sort of retrospective of all of Veronica's skirts. There's so many high-waisted skirts. And I'm not complaining, but it's just, there's other things to wear.
She loves skirts. Skirts
She
are
really
fun.
does.
But honestly, when you are a high school student, probably not every single day would you wear high-waisted skirts belted with like mohair sweaters.
I would say her clothing never looks comfortable. She always is dressed very severe, is what I would say. At least there's a softness to Betty. But this is a question. Right now, Hiram and Veronica are talking, and Veronica asks him if he killed the poutine guy, and he says no. And I firmly believe in that conversation that Veronica 100% does not believe him. And I like that. She looks so upset about it and hugs him anyway. Because what are you going to do when you're a 15, 16-year-old girl and your dad straight up mafia murdered somebody? You just give him a hug, right? Isn't that what
you shouldn't
Madame
have to
Soprano had to do?
You shouldn't have.
I feel like it's very Sopranos a little bit with them, and it's like the writers of this saw a lot of Sopranos and are trying to emulate it a little bit too much.
Yeah,
So
I get you. I get you on that one. You should not have to ask your parent if they murdered anybody.
no,
You should know if they murdered somebody. Yes or no. I mean, ideally, the answer would be no. They murdered nobody. But you can't feel good about having to
and
sit there and ask that question.
I don't think Betty was off base by going back for the phone. I am worried because of modern technology. Remember when I found out about how scary modern technology is when people turned off Emily Fields' phone from afar? I'm still horrified by that, by the way, years later. But I feel like somebody could have tracked the phone and then that's, I think, part of the reason why Betty does it, because a Betty move, when sleuthing would be to track this mother effer's cell phone to get to him, right? And then she would have discovered, as an investigative journalist, Rose, she would have discovered a dead body, which is like really Betty Cooper's dream. Not to hide the dead body, but to be the discoverer and to expose the cover up, right?
Because she's a murderino.
It's why she's so stressed out, because she's on the other side of things now, and it's now comfortable. So her getting the phone and turning off the GPS, I think, was a good idea. There's also this creepy kind of chick while they're fighting where he has like a tear that it looks like somebody tried to put on his face because he couldn't do it himself, but he kind of smiles, and I'm like, wait, is he like happy that Alice is defending him?
Yeah.
Or is he like happy they're fighting? And I worry it's the latter.
Oh, no. I thought he was happy that Alice was defending him, because Betty really lays into both of them and was like, this is stupid. This is a bad move. You're fucking, this guy's phone says all this stuff about him. He was a drug dealer. It's like a sibling fight. Like, it's like their first fight as siblings. It's weirdly a domestic moment. And Alice has made another wonderful breakfast. She really kills it in the kitchen. It's French toast this time. But Betty's mom drags her away and gives her like a big earful about not yelling at Chick. And I think that Chick just likes that his mom's taking care of him. And in his case, that means cleaning up the blood of a man that he murdered and yelling at his sister when he left the cell phone evidence behind. That's the Cooper way. They're really normal, very relatable folks. Oh. We get through a lot of this episode without seeing much of Cheryl, which is sad. But there's so much going on, I almost don't miss her, but I do miss her.
The fact that it cuts to Cheryl with the bow and arrow right away is outstanding. It's great. So we see Hal with Penelope again.
Yes.
And what we learn is that Penelope is not having Hal pay for companionship. Is that Penelope genuinely, like, straight up regular seduced Hal, and they're having maybe like a legit affair, right? So,
yeah. And that to Cheryl is like worse than her mother just having him as a client. Cheryl looks great in this. I mean,
she looks amazing. Her it's like almost like a riding outfit, but I guess it's like her Katniss, her like fancy Katniss thing for bow and arrowing. Like, it's great. She just looks great. She looks very country club.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this great like fucking plaid riding jacket. I don't know. Her clothes actually always look comfortable to me. It's like the opposite of Veronica. Veronica's clothes are always tight and look like really staid in a way. But Cheryl's clothes are really tight, but they always look like they're just like a second skin. Like it's like a cat suit. She always looks so relaxed in her weird ass life. Why does Veronica's dad have like a drafting table in the background of his? Oh, because he's always doing plans. That's why. Because he's always developing parts of Riverdale. I forgot. How could I have forgotten?
I don't know. It's weird. He looks very threatening when he's in a suit, but then they have him in like a lot of like weirdo turtlenecks. I will just say, one of the other bizarre things that when we ever cut to the drug dealer's phone, like it's once in Betty's room and then once when she has it at Pop's when she's making her weird notebook of all the numbers. One of the numbers that like was a text is Jason. And I am watching this like going, the only other Jason we know is Jason Blossom. So it looks like the person said hello, so I'm guessing it wasn't Jason Blossom. But I wonder if that was on purpose from the show, like that they pulled that name to be like, hey, like, are you paying attention? So
maybe he did correspond with Jason when Jason was alive. You're right, it does say Jason, and they do show it like right there. That's the second one.
There's twice you
Yeah.
see it if you're looking, and I thought that was interesting. So we glossed over the détente, which I mispronounced before, between Jughead's dad, and it was really Veronica's dad, and they were both there. But Jughead, who obviously is, I think he's still on Serpent probation, right? He's not part of it, but
Right.
for some reason he is like representing um their interests, and he like they do not, he basically is like, yeah, we can't come to a agreement. So
Well, because the lodges like have taken over the entire part of the town where the serpents lived and worked and spent time. Um, and Veronica kind of confronts her parents basically about this whole situation with their development.
is it the scene in the study
Yeah,
when like McCoy storms out? I love the body language of both of the lodges, the parents' lodge, and like Hermione's kind of like hunched over, like just like fucking enraged, like I'm gonna murder that bitch, just on her face. And like I don't think her and McCoy have been getting along for a while, but it's great. And then she goes, "It's time for Operation Guess Who's Coming to Dinner," and I'm like, find like a shorter title, bitch. Like what?
yeah, that's a crazy. Is it because that she and the sheriff, like because McCoy and the sheriff are an interracial couple?
You know what? I don't know. I feel like Hermione likes to name things just like old fucking movies that she loves, right? Like that's just, it doesn't matter how long the title is.
But so their whole thing is like they have these plans for the South Side and their developments there, and they want to do them at a pace that's like not in line with McCoy's like political interests, and that's why they have this disagreement. And then in the end, they're just like, well, let's just cut McCoy out of it and expose her and the sheriff's affair. Which I do think that title, I guess, Who's Coming to Dinner, is about their interracial love.
It probably is. That, which actually makes it like semi-racist,
Yeah, it's weird.
especially from Latino people in a mostly white neighborhood, I would say. I guess like, I don't know. I guess there's like racial, like Pops is African American, and so is Josie and McCoy. I don't know.
I just think it's weird of them to choose that. That is a weird name for their operation. It's like just Operation. We're gonna fucking expose their affair. Why not just call it the affair?
I would be like Operation Dethroning or
How many
Operation Mayor
operations do they
Bust.
have going on that they need to name them?
I don't come up with like juvenile names for shit. I don't know. It bothered me.
It was a weird thing to say.
Anyway, when Jughead comes to see Betty, he looks so cute. His hair. I love his hair. Sometimes Cole Sprouse looks so young, and then in this scene, he looks he looks older. He looks tired. He just looks exasperated by this story that Betty has told him of murder.
Listen, it's a lot to take in. It's your girlfriend is telling you a lot of information. You've already been through a lot. Your whole part of town is getting taken over by the lodges who are trying to now like cut deals with you. Meanwhile, Jason Blossom's death just happened like a month ago. It's a lot.
Yeah, aren't they still in the same school year? Technically? Mm-hmm. Adams went to Luke Perry, to Fred Andrews, and said, you have undocumented workers, right? Did he say something about Hiram paying for? I don't even think he makes the connection to Hiram. But anyway, him talking to Fred, and Archie comes in, and it's supposed to be like, I'm gonna blackmail you, kid. Which also, I'm like, this guy's not an FBI agent. Like, who the fuck would do that?
Listen, I told you it's the news. They're talking about undocumented workers. They're talking about global climate change. This is the news. They're talking about unmarked vehicles parked on your street. Jughead does look really cute when he's so upset about the dead body, because he's not that kind of guy. He's just not the kind of guy who loves to deal with this sort of shit. And it keeps coming to his lap, you know? He just wants to write his stuff on his computer and relax with his girlfriend and have a normal life, but it doesn't work out that way.
And you know what? Like, we're not. Archie's story is so ridiculous, and it has been for the past few episodes. But I'll say he looks really good, and he's doing a good job in the scene outside of his house with Adams. He just looks, I don't know, he looks so powerless. I would say, like, this is a rough one for all the kids, I think, except maybe Veronica, even Cheryl, I think, because now she has the confrontation with Hal, and she looks pretty upset. And even McCoy, even the mayor, has a bad episode. It just wasn't like, this was a good episode to have and then have a couple weeks off, because I want some happiness for everybody when they come back. Is that wrong in Riverdale? I do.
It's never gonna happen, because you know what it is. The first season, the first chunk of episodes, it was about the kids kind of, we talked about this, losing their innocence and coming to understand these darker events in their town. And now we're at a new stage where it's not just that they understand these darker events, but they're participating in them. Not on purpose yet, not with their own agendas yet. They're just sort of getting sucked in or walking into it or being tested on it. But they're taking steps down that road to become these people who do these things. And there's no going back from that. There's no going back to that happy-go-lucky high school life. I wish we could, and I think we will at moments, just to show the contrast, but their innocence is lost.
The scene where Betty and Jughead throw the car into like the swamp, wherever the hell there's a swamp in the woods, but it is a scene straight out of Pretty Little Liars. I'm fairly certain that Aria and Hannah had a similarly lit scene where it was like, it would be super dark. There'd be no lighting in the woods, but somehow you can see their faces and it's all blue lit. It looks like the pilot of True Blood right there.
Listen, when you are dumping a car in the woods, you want to be lit properly and you want to be seen for who you are and for what you're doing. But that is almost the exact same scene. I remember them pushing that other car into the lake and Hannah being like ridiculous about it. It's just what the teenagers go through, pushing a car.
It was very much Hannah's moment, and like Aria was just there because she had nothing to do in this episode. I would say I was a big fan of Jughead in this one, and of Jughead hopefully moving forward. But I would say this is odd to me. I love when he got the serpent storyline, because I was like, okay, here's something for Jughead to commit to that he's going to do. And then Jughead did commit to it. He became very invested, very involved. It became part of his identity. And I hated that, because it became very all-consuming for him to this degree that was bizarre. And now that, I mean, he has the scene with McCoy, which still somehow feels like first season Jughead, like Save the Drive-In Jughead. And then he has, I guess, the scene with Veronica's dad, where it's like him being sort of the serpent leader boy. But for the most part in this episode, he's just kind of like Betty's backup. And he just is, he's so adorably shy with her at the beginning, and then he immediately is down for committing crimes in order to make her feel better in the last half. And there's something just so sweet about him, and that he got me. He got me a little bit.
Because what they're saying is that he's all in on Betty. He loves her, and he will do whatever it takes to help her through whatever she's dealing with. He's on her side no matter what.
I will say there was one small irksome thing to me, and that was, for all intents and purposes, right? Betty got up on a pole and like.
Hold on. Sorry, my
Commercial break.
thing
We
is,
should say commercial break every time it happens.
I hate it. I don't know why it does that.
So, right, Betty stripped down to her unmentionables, and she got up on a pole, and she danced for Jughead. He was like held to the no, and basically broke up with her for a second time. Right?
Yes.
This year, he's done it twice so far. I don't like that the minute he's okay with their relationship resuming, that Betty's just like, yep. Like, I know she's got other stuff going on and she can't really process the Jughead portion, but
So you think she should be mad at him?
I don't think that she should. I think that she should be more cautious than maybe she is. I think maybe she needed somebody to help her. And it is interesting that I feel like the show was going in this direction, at least it was before the mid-season thing, that seemed like Archie and Betty had this history together, that they were always going to be there for each other, and they really liked each other. And everybody is sort of on these weird trajectories with everybody else. And it is interesting that Veronica and Jughead are having to interact now because of their parents.
Yeah.
Because they're the two characters that I always say arguably have the least to talk about and are not in a lot of scenes together ultimately, unless everybody's in the room.
No, but I know what you're saying, that like it seemed like they were going one way, especially like when Betty sang, oh no, sorry, when Archie and Veronica sang that Wicked World song and all that stuff, like they were coming to some sort of end and in a certain direction. But you're right. Then when they started up, it was like, okay, everybody's back together, and we're not gonna do that other stuff we just talked about.
Well, so. I think it's clearly going to come back, and I think maybe the reason why we're going to see Veronica and Jughead kiss is because they probably find out about it. That's what I'm guessing. Or it's like a truth and dare thing, but I'm gonna guess that somebody finds out, or that Cheryl says something to somebody.
Because Cheryl is like a spider just hanging in the corner of every room. She's got a web where she hangs out.
She's wearing a spider brooch in her bow and arrow outfit too. That's a different spider brooch than earlier. It's just there needs to be just something with all of her outfits too. So many different shades of red. Shades of red. That's what you'd call that Tumblr. It writes itself, guys. So I don't know. It just, to me, it was weird because they did it up until the Black Hood thing, and the show doesn't expressly identify it. I don't think they need to, but to me, I would like it to come back a little bit. Is that they seem to be getting really close all of a sudden for like 2 or 3 episodes, and then they kind of just stopped. And what I think happened was that they kissed. They didn't really want to talk about it. And that they avoided each other.
Yeah.
Because they really have not interacted in a serious way. Like as a group, and they're still friends, but it wasn't. It's interesting that Betty, I mean, Jughead's kind of there, which I guess is why Betty, and he's willing to help her, which is why Betty takes advantage of it. But I'm almost wondering if, like, what if Archie had offered to take her to school? I think maybe Betty took a sideline because she saw Archie get back together with Veronica and then just kind of immediately backed off. Right. Which I guess is something Betty would do. That I believe all of that. It's just, it's weird how the show, I almost feel like the show's not dealing with all of this on purpose because they want to deal with it later and they want to talk about how time has passed and nobody said anything and nobody really dealt with anything. And I hope I hope they're that smart when it comes to all of this.
Sorry, I'm just distracted by Cheryl's extremely short skirt that she's wearing.
Did you like, is this when Hal walks into the room and you see her nails? You see her nails like on the
this is much
the Betty
later.
scene?
Yeah, when they're at school.
Oh god, I'm looking at Archie talk to Luke Perry, and then he looks at The Wire. And first of all, he looks great, but his shirt is so tight. Like I know I say that every episode, but it's so tight. It's tighter than his wrestling gi. I'm kidding. It's nothing's tighter than that.
Chick needs to stop crying all the time. Chick is just crying and freaking out because Hal is there and figuring out what's going on. Chick is really like, I mean, he grew up on the mean streets of the wrong side of town, and he was a hustler and all this stuff, and he can't handle this. Is he pretending to be so vulnerable, or is this who he really is? What's your read on this guy? Because he's like crouched in a
I
corner.
mean, I don't. I would say Chick does a lot of face work in this show. He does not talk a lot, if you've noticed. He says very few words. I will say that one of the things to remember is that he is in the business of granting people's fantasies, right? So he's a really good liar. He would admit that. And he taught Betty how to kind of lie for her brief 30-second webcam career. We like, never got a sense of how much Betty's doing that and if it's continued, or if it'll come back.
I'm sure it'll come back.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure Blackwig Betty has to, but I don't know. I mean, I think we're still supposed to not be sure about Chick. He clearly is not a positive influence in the show for anybody.
No.
Because if he wasn't there, Alice and Betty wouldn't have spent most of the beginning of the episode cleaning up a murder.
It's
That
true.
was that guy was there because of him.
Because
So he's
just
bad news.
enjoying themselves, doing that white wine book club that they do with Josie McCoy's mom. Speaking of Josie McCoy's mom, she's stepping down to spend more time with her family.
No, if I have a serious question for
you. Yes.
Before you continue, you can go there, but just hypothetically, you're the mayor of Algonquin, Maine. Okay, we're just going to say that right now, of course. And you have to get stepped down because you're having an affair with this sexy sheriff named Jen. Okay? And when you do this, would you have your daughter stand next to you at your desk at work?
When people do this, which they do all the time, because they're disgraced, they always have their family stand next to them because it's supposed to lend credence to the idea that they have a family and that that's their commitment and that's really what they're all about. They always have. Like when a guy gets busted for like screwing somebody in a bathroom, he always steps down with his wife right next to him and is like, I'm gonna spend more time with my family and like repair my family bonds. It's exactly what they do. She needs her husband to show up once in a while, but I guess he's probably mad because she's boning the sheriff, so. Would have been better if he were there too. He's a notable missing presence. Poor Josie. Where's her dad? You know?
I don't know. It was they put Josie so rarely in this show that I can't imagine like fucking them casting an actor who would pop. Well, he was in the show.
He was.
It was a dinner he was in the first year. Remember that? He was a real jerk face to her.
Yeah, he was really mean. That's what I'm saying. Poor Josie.
Do you know what I think they're gonna set up? I've thought about this since this one.
Go.
Is that Hiram's gonna run for mayor?
Oh.
I mean, do you think that? Because I think that. And if it's not him, it'll be someone else that they control.
Yeah.
Like in a way that they couldn't with McCoy. My chief problem with the story of like her stepping down because of the scandal breaking is she didn't guess that people were gonna fucking figure out that she was sleeping with Keller.
Yeah, I mean, they were pretty, like, obvious. I mean, if two high school girls can figure it out.
Like, literally children discovered this. Like, that's how not discreet she was. So...
Well. I guess she, when you're in the throes of passion, you don't think about that kind of stuff.
I remember when Veronica went down to Keller's basement and he was working out, and I guess I understand Mayor McCoy's reaction. It's animal. It's just She probably saw him getting sweaty, and it was probably like he was walking down that summer street and he used the bottom of his t-shirt to wipe his forehead, like Archie and the pilot with Grundy. And
Yeah,
just McCoy was like, "Where's your nightstick?"
it had to
I got
happen.
questions. I really thought now Archie gets summoned by the driver that
Hmm.
was introduced when Smithers was replaced. Do you
Yeah,
remember this?
the one who like works, who's like on the side of Hiram and
Yes. So he's Latino. He gets more FaceTime and lines in this last scene than he has for the entire show so far. And I'm just gonna say this right now: he's hella sexy. Like, why I thought they were when he came back on that they were setting him up as a future love interest of Veronica to like throw a wrench into the works for Archie. But that never happened. But I do think it's sad for actors like that. First of all, that gentleman, very attractive. Second, he probably does a good job with what he's doing. I mean, he does as this driver. He seems appropriately creepy. But is the show ever really going to do anything with that character? Like, it barely finds time to do anything with Josie.
But why do you feel bad for him? He's getting paid for being on a television
He is, but
program. That's the
he's
dream.
probably a really good actor,
Well,
and
acting
he's
is a
not.
hard profession to choose,
I
right? I mean, I am sorry to break it to you, but there are lots of good actors out there who don't even get this big of a part. So I feel for him, but I also just want to say it's a tough road to hoe. He's doing great. He looks good. He's young. He's getting some exposure. I feel like he's going to do great things.
Do you want to talk about the circle? The circle of Cooper slash Joneses.
All right. First of all, Betty and her mother realize that they need some help. And there's somebody that they know who knows how to dispose of bodies, who's totally like always handling this kind of shit.
Yeah, who, by the way, almost got thrown in jail forever because of the last one.
Well, but that doesn't mean he doesn't know what he's doing. So they go to FP Jones. Now, let's not forget, FP likes Betty's mom. Betty's mom and FP have a history together.
There is a scene after it's all over where he touches her hand and she makes this face at him. And I feel like it confirms everything that we've guessed on this podcast.
Of course.
Like,
Yeah, they
deeply in love.
way back. And they love each other secretly. He's burying a body for her, and
Do
he's
you think,
not.
like, Hal was Andre? Andre is the driver's name, by the way. That Hal was like Archie and that FP was like Jughead, and then Alice ended up with like her Archie, but like secretly she wanted her
Oh
Jughead.
my God, you're
Isn't
so
that great?
you're
Yeah.
so right.
And then who was Veronica? Like Hermione, just straight up
Yes,
Hermione.
yes, Ryan, you know it. This is exactly what happened.
Except Hermione didn't get a Jughead or an Archie when she was a kid, which made her fucking so resentful that she's coming back and getting revenge on Riverdale by fucking taking it over mob style. Wait, what? Hermione's the brains behind everything. Ah!
Yeah, yeah, that sexy driver drives Archie right to the big boss. And you're like, who's it gonna be? Papa Poutine's second cousin or what? But it's fucking Hermione, man. Ladies are doing it in 2018. Good for Hermione, man. She's gotta look out for her family. She's a mob boss. It's awesome. It's not great lifestyle wise, but it's terrific.
But that's this is my whole thing is like did did she set Hiram up to go to jail? Because if like she did and he did for her, that is awesome. It does completely change the dynamic, and it does. I will say the show really set up a long game because when he came back, she became very quiet, where she was very vocal and very active in the machinations of the first year. And you're supposed to be like, oh, she was doing it all on behalf of him. Oh, no, girl. She was doing it all on behalf of herself.
Yeah, and she looks like she's so scared of him and everything. But if she's the big boss, then what the hell was all that?
Her public persona.
But she wasn't always in public when she acted so scared of him.
Sometimes she was just getting drunk on wine.
Remember that time he zipped up her dress and she was like real freaked out? What was that if she's the boss?
I don't know. I don't know.
Speaking of other things, and who would like to be the boss? Chick is at the Cooper's house just literally cutting Hal out of the photos. Literally just snipping him out of the family photos. Chick is a fucking weirdo. Sorry, Chick. I'm not a fan.
It's one thing if, because I feel like they've kind of set Chick up a little bit. Like, I guess he's a prostitute, but they do kind of set him up to be like a gay prostitute. And
Yeah.
I don't love the idea of them introducing an evil gay character. But we don't know enough about him, I guess, for me to even call him that. You know, the poster that they did for season 2 Riverdale too, it says diner in the background, but the
Yeah.
N and the R are blocked out, so it says die. Did you
Yeah.
ever notice that?
Yes, I
Yeah,
did.
that's cute. Um, I'm excited also. It looks like every subplot I'm going to be into in the next one, but I will say on the extended one, they also show a scene where I guess Moose and Kevin are going to get back together, but that Moose is also going to continue dating Midge. And then he said, I talked to Midge about it. She knows about you and she's cool with it. And
Okay.
I'm like, what? So I'm glad that they're going back to that dynamic because I really liked it in the Kevin episode. I think a lot of the kids have chemistry. They're just all young, hot, and horny, right? But I do like Moose and Kevin. I like them.
Why are you surprised that Midge would know that Moose liked to fuck Kevin and be okay with it?
Well, I think because it was like straight up like Moose told her all about it, and he
Why is
was
that?
like, "Oh,
Some people are open about that kind of thing.
that's true, but not. I think it's hard when you're in high school and you're there, the age that these kids are supposed to be,
Yeah, you're
to
right.
be like, oh, like, P.S. I'm also like gay sometimes. I would say maybe it's easier for girls, but I would say for dudes, I don't know that like a hot girl, maybe Midge is just really cool. I mean,
Cool.
he did listen. Moose did get like shot like 80 times for her,
Yeah,
right? So
they're very, very connected at this point. Midge seems really chill, and he could say like I'm bi, like he could be bisexual or pansexual. I think he seems like he's bisexual at the very least, but that's fine. He could be openly bi and polyamorous at the same time.
I don't think Kevin is though. I mean, I know Kevin likes rando sex in the woods, but to me, I feel like when he was with Joaquin, right, that he wants to commit to somebody. I think the idea is that he would like to be with somebody.
Yeah, he doesn't seem polyamorous, but he also doesn't seem like he's in the mood to be committing to somebody right now. So, um, anything else? Anything else besides? I mean, the big reveal of this is that Veronica's mom is like the big mob boss. I
I
mean,
mean, she's in that
dun, dun,
scene, she's great.
dun. And it wasn't an FBI agent after all. It was just a test, and Archie has passed, and that's the big thing. I do think there's some things that don't
Add up.
add up for how Hermione was last season or when what's his face first came back to now. But great, she's the mob boss. I'm into it. I'll see where it goes. Listen, I looked up this guy who you like so much, the driver. His name is Stefan Myers.
Ooh, hi.
And
Hello.
he's doing great. He's
Is
doing
he?
great.
Is he
He
in other things?
is in a ton of other things. He was in some short films, TV movies. He was then in 50 Shades Dark. He was in Arrow. He was in 50 Shades Darker. He was in Prison Break, and now he's in quite a few episodes of Riverdale. And he's got a movie in pre-production, so I don't think you need to worry about him. I think you just need to enjoy his presence.
I mean, he does. Oh, he was born in Belgium. He has a very risque underwear IMDb photo.
That's not the one that I'm seeing. I think that's hilarious that they're showing me a normal photo of a guy in. Oh no, there it is. I see that.
Yeah, you see that? That's like, he looks good.
See?
I'm just saying.
Ryan has found a new friend. Everybody, Stefan Myers.
I do. He's Andre, no last name. That's how he is. I mean, he was in the Prison Break reboot. I would say his credit. Well, first of all, these are his credits and the things you mentioned. In Arrow, he was lead soldier in one episode, and in 50 Shades Darker. Listen, in 50 Shades Darker, he was credited as hairdresser.
Ryan, I know a lot of actors. This guy is getting work. And he's doing it. Give him a fucking round of applause. Not everybody is going to be the lead actor. He is working, and he's working his way up to it. It looks like he's kind of he's producing stuff. He's doing what he's doing.
I'm going to say if more people saw the IMDb photo that comes right up, they would hire him.
You think he should be better recognized?
I think he's sexy. That's all I'm gonna say. That's my vote. What else can we say about this one? I guess that's kind of it. I mean, I like the reveal. I like that we're going in an unexpected direction. I would say maybe you're right. I would have to go back and watch everything again, which I think is the goal of this reveal. I think that they kind of want you to go back and see if it's really not consistent with what was happening. Like, because I guess Hiram and her could fight, and Hiram's probably mad he had to go to jail, right? I can't imagine he was happy about that.
Yeah, but if she's the boss of everything, she could just deal with him, like have him addressed if she wanted to. I don't know. She was acting all scared, and it just throws everything into a new light.
Okay.
What's
I don't know if it's Stefan or if it's Steven. He has an Instagram.
Of course.
And there's pictures of behind the scenes Riverdale photos on it.
Ooh,
so it's great.
Yep. What's Mary McCoy gonna do for a new job?
Obviously she's going to be Josie's manager / personal assistant, and it's going to lead to a lot of conflicts. I think she would like to be Mrs. Lady Sheriff is probably going to be her.
But there's already a Mrs. Lady Sheriff. She's in the army, and she might come back.
I don't know. You know what we never talked about was that meter maid. Who notices the car.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, what is does that person work for Keller, and is their job just to drive around and look at suspicious cars? I had a lot of questions.
She's a parking person. Like, she's supposed to. She's a like a, what do you call it? There's a word for that kind of policing.
A meter maid?
No, that's not the same thing as a meter maid. I mean, I wouldn't call that a meter maid. It's a whatever the fuck you call it, cop. Not a traffic cop. There's like a
parking enforcement officer?
Yeah, parking enforcement. That's exactly right. We have those here. And they do go in tiny little cars like that. That's not a fucking joke. This is the news, Ryan. I've been telling you. They are very, very accurate about reality on Riverdale. I don't know why you think this is they would show something that's not true. Women are leaning in. Women are mob bosses. Women are prostitutes, and they're really into it. People are polyamorous bisexuals. This is today's world.
That's beautiful. I like that a lot.
Beautiful. And on that note, we can conclude.
Okay, well, there's two things. First of all, there's two things.
Yes.
First off, I want to say I sent you the fact that they're doing an official Riverdale convention in Chicago at the end of April. And I know that it's not going to fit into either of our schedules to go, but I love the fact that both Cheryl and Josie are going to be there at this thing. And did you see it? What I sent you?
Yes, I did. People are going to be all over those ladies. I hope they have appropriate bodyguard protection because
I know for like your life you're not going to go, but I'm strongly considering like taking a day trip.
You should go, Ryan. I can't go because I'm saving my time because we're going to go to Disney World this summer. But you should go.
I am not going to Disney World, and I would love to go to an official Riverdale convention, and it's the only place they're doing such a thing. And I mean, it would sweeten the deal if Stephen Meyer was going to be there. Like, if he could drive me there, pick me up from the airport. I know he's really good at driving.
But just imagine getting a picture with fucking Cheryl and or Josie. Just imagine.
I mean, I'd love all of them, but also Luke Perry's going to be there. Like, how amazing is that?
It's Luke Perry.
Yeah, that's fucking Luke Perry, guys. And then Cole Sprouse is like the big one. He's like the headliner person because he's the only one of the four who's going to be there. And then I think Kevin is there, but he's only there Sunday. And like if I had to pick, I'd go Saturday because everybody else is going to be there. Yeah, so there's that. I just want to, what I really want is our listeners to know about it, because if you live in the Chicago area, I'm going to say it's the Creation Entertainment. There's like a listing on their website, and I have been to at least 2 of their Vampire Diaries things. They did one in Boston and they did one in New Jersey, and I went to both. And they're very well organized. And if it's the same people who are doing it, which I think it is, it was like, you buy all the stuff. It's like they have an itinerary. They make sure if you have like a photo with like Cheryl at like 11, and then you have like a Josie photo at 11:30, that you definitely get to do both of the photos. Like they're super, super structured and super good. It's a downside of taking photos with these people, because a lot of times they'll play music really loud so that you can't start talking to them and having conversations. And that's because when you pay for a photo, you got to take the photo and like move on. So you basically get to say, hi, I love you, you're great, or something like that. And like, I totally would. Like with Cheryl, I'd want to talk to her forever. But when you get autographs, which are cheaper, you get to like say a little hi to them and everything. So that's where I met Chris Wood from Supergirl, because he was at a Vampire Diaries one.
Did you tell him I'm not a fan?
So, okay. So, no, I didn't, because that would have been rude. And it was before he was on Supergirl. It was before he was on Supergirl. But do you know what happened? I can show you. The best part of it is, so I was so nervous when I took the photo with him, is that I made a weird face, and my face in this photo is hilarious. It's like, I'm like I have to post it. And then, so the photographer made me like go back up, and I'm not kidding. I was the last one. So I went, like I was at the end of the line, and I had to go back after a bunch of people. And then I go, I'm sorry, I fucked it up. And then he went, it's okay, it happens. And then he put his hand on my shoulder and he squeezed it a little. And I was like, ah! I was like, this isn't helping me make a better face. So anyway, there's that. And then we have to decide if it was a Betty or Veronica episode.
I'm going to go with it was a Betty episode.
It was such a Betty episode. We can't even fight about it.
She buried a body with her mom.
I love that scene, though. We didn't talk about it, where Hiram asks Veronica if he told Mayor McCoy that they were going to expose the affair. And Veronica's like, no. Like, I'm going to lie about shit if you're going to lie about murdering people.
She didn't tell Mayor McCoy. She told Josie.
No, didn't she tell? Oh, is that what happened?
She told Josie to tell her mom. Here's the thing about Betty and this episode, is that one day Betty's going to keep on growing up and being an adult, and she's going to go on to be, a woman in her adult life. And then she's gonna be, maybe even a mother one day. She seems to like family and stuff. I don't know. Can I see her as a mother? I don't know. Maybe an aunt. Maybe Chick will have a kid. Or Archie will. And then they'll be like visiting with Archie's kid next door or something. And her mom will be there, older, wiser as well. And then the kid will say something and they'll start laughing and chuckling over the time they buried a body together. Like it'll just bring the memories back, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, that pipe," and they'll like remember it and chuckle together over it, and everybody's gonna be like, "What? What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Oh, it was just a crazy time." And this is just something they did together, and that's literally what's going to be true in her life, and I love that. It's just bonding, mother-daughter bonding. Some people go to the spa, some people go horseback riding, some people roll up a body in a rug.
I mean, I always loved it on Liars when the girls like legit were dealing with like actual trauma. Like it was. I always think back on that scene where Paige and Emily are in the woods, and Paige is like, I'm scared all the time. Like, the stuff that happens in this town is not okay. Do you remember that? Because
Yeah.
it was the scene from like somebody wrote that, and they're like, this show is ridiculous and it isn't addressed. And there's something about like just having Betty react in the way she did to this episode that makes me like Riverdale is not as bananas soap opera, but it's getting up there.
I mean,
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I mean it's why it was a natural extension of what we're doing now. But I will say that like Betty being so freaked out about this and so anxious about this and looking so like she doesn't have, there's no resolution where she's smiling or happy at the end of this one.
Oh.
She's just resting on Jughead's shoulder trying not to cry, and there's something about that I really really like. I just like that this show is like, we're not going to treat murder like we're just going to the next episode. There was a period like around, I think it was the first or the second Halloween special in Liars, where like 3 of the supporting characters died, and like back-to-back episodes. Like it was like that cop that was Emily's friend. It was like just all these people fucking died, and it was like, aren't there police? They're interviewing the girls all the time. Why are they not stopping the murders? This is crazy. I don't know. I like this show though.
I like this show too. I think there could be an interesting thesis project written about like these teen murder shows and the sort of national anxiety that we have as a country about, I don't know, just some of the fucked up shit that goes on here in America and the way that we aren't really safe. Um because as I said, Riverdale's about the news, man. It's about the anxieties that we all have. So I'm not trying to, I don't know, I'm not trying to make it frivolous, but I do think it's like connected to like what we need to see anxiety in our entertainment because we can't leave it behind these days.
I do. I mean, part of it, like everything that happened in Florida was so terrible. And I mean, I love that the kids are doing something, right?
Yeah.
They're trying. And it's just like, that must be so hard. They're so much braver than I could have been at that age, I think. And is part of the reason why they're getting so much attention. But my thing is, like Riverdale is fictionalized, right? And as much as it like might be a reflection of what's happening and what's now, like I do like that it's a story. I like that it's a little bit silly because I need that. Like I can't, like what the Murderinos do and how they're watching. They just like talked about that Murder on the Cape movie and how crazy it is. I'm like put it on my Netflix list so I can watch it. But like when they talk about watching the Datelines and everything, I used to go to New Hampshire like a year or two ago, and I would go there on Friday night, and I would stay over with my parents so we could have breakfast. And my mother would just, I don't do it anymore because my mother straight up for like 3 or 4 hours watches these murder shows, these like true crime, like this person like poisoned their many husbands with mercury and the doctors didn't know what it was, like stories like that. And they're so fucking dark. It's all like before there was DNA evidence, and then they kept the evidence and they discovered the DNA later, and it was just they're so horrifying. I mean, the stories that you need the lightness at the beginning of the My Favorite Murders, because when you get to the actual murders, they're sometimes like, I'm in my car and I can't leave my car.
It's very scary. I can only listen to them under very specific circumstances when I'm not, it's not night and I'm alone and all that stuff. And sometimes it still comes back. If I listen to it in a bad situation, then I like, or just like outside at night, and then I go back outside at night, it's very scary. Because people are fucked up. Like, that's the thing about that stuff. Like, the truth of crime is that people do bad things to, like, unfathomably bad things to each other. And I don't, like, understand it because I'm not that person. And I don't want to understand it. But I can only, like, see it from the side. Like, you can't spend that many hours with it. And you're right. That's why fictional shows where they're talking about people getting murdered or whatever is kind of like more of an escape, because there's going to be some weird motive or resolution. Or like Jen and I went to see Sweeney Todd the other day.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the plot of Sweeney Todd? All right, so like this guy he's a murderer. He murders a bunch of people for his own personal reasons, and then they grind them up into and eat them. And it took place. It was like a stage situation where they were in a very small area. So it was like actually like if you were in the pie shop with them.
Yeah.
And that was fun for the beginning of the show when you were like, yay, haha, they're making jokes about eating people and like it's a musical and this is like an interesting story and this guy is crazy and whatever. But the second half of the show, he just gets down to seriously murdering a bunch of people. And then you're like, shit, I'm just in here with this guy, like, who's murdering a bunch of people. And I understand it's fictional, but what does that say about me? That this is, like, what I sought out for my entertainment. It really became a judgment on the audience, which I thought was an interesting way to stage it. You're like, oh, what are we doing here? Why is this a musical? Like, it was very, and it wasn't very bloody or anything like that. It was just about being that close to it and them singing it right to you. Like, you are here to hear the story of a murdering person. What is up with that? I don't know. We should all question ourselves. Is that something that other countries do? We're not the only country that likes true crime.
I always think of Sweeney Todd as kind of a story of like revenge. Like they really did ruin this guy's life, and his wife ended up dying as a result of it, right?
He killed her. Spoilers for Sweeney Todd. He actually.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, you're talking a lot about Sweeney Todd. I just my whole thing is I never get really excited about it because I don't love the music in Sweeney Todd. No, I don't like.
It's better than it's not melodious, but it's well made. And it depends on who's doing it. The actors in this one were really good, and the musicians were really good. It was a very good performance.
There was a movie with Johnny Depp. I feel like people know Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, and Helena Bonham Carter.
Yes, who's great in everything she does. So
a treasure, a creepy treasure.
All right,
treasure nonetheless.
Well, Rose, thank you for doing this when you were sick. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry about my voice. I will be better next time.
You sound sexy, like when Phoebe sings and everybody comes to listen to her. Thank you, my babies. That's very much your voice right now. It's great. So,
all right. I will see you next week, Brian. Bye.
Bye.